There is one last spirit. Her name is Georgia.
Georgia, yep.
And she just says, how can I be forgiven?
Georgia, what do you need to be forgiven for?
So much.
Do you mind telling me?
My children, the abuse I've caused to them.
So did you actually abuse them, or did you allow abuse to occur to them?
I would yell and smack them, but I allowed a man to hurt them.
Right. Yeah. When you say allow a man to hurt them, you allowed a man to sexually abuse them.
Yes.
Yep. And you knew that he was.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Is that the thing you feel that you need to be forgiven for? Or is there more?
That is what I want to be forgiven for.
Okay. Okay. Did you hear the recent discussion that I had with the man who was the murderer who talked about repentance?
Yes, I wondered if that applied to me.
That does apply to you, yes. But if I can explain a little more than what I explained to him for you. With regard to any action we take when we're on earth, there's always a reason. So if we look at the reason why you firstly physically hurt your children, but secondly allowed them to be sexually abused, right? So let's look at the reason, the real reason. What do you feel the real reason is inside of you for that?
My daughters were more beautiful than me.
Okay, so the daughters, so you were jealous of your daughters?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any other reason, do you think?
My disgust that he desired them so much more than me.
Right, so the man you were with desired your daughters more than he desired yours?
Yes.
Yeah. And how did that feel besides disgust? There's another emotion in there.
Anger. It made me very angry.
Right. And it made you sometimes angry with your daughters
Yes.
and sometimes angry with the man
Yes.
because you wanted the man to desire you.
I wanted him to love me.
Yeah. So if you look at the real emotion, you wanted a man's love, didn't you?
Yes.
Can you see that? Yeah. And when the man gave, let's call it love in quotations because it's not really love, when the man gave love in quotations to your daughters, you then felt angry with your daughters because they were getting something that you wanted for yourself.
I wanted to hurt them and scar them so that he would not see them as beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did.
You did. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what we want to do is instead of having all this judgment about what you've done, because it's so tempting to do that, how long ago did all this happen? Can you mind me asking?
500 years.
Okay. So for the last 500 years you've been feeling the pain of this, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. When you first passed you were quite angry and in a rage?
Yes.
And you've worked through lots of jealous emotions, haven't you, then? And you've had quite a lot of...
I see the pain I have caused.
Yeah, now you're in a much more ready place, aren't you, to see what's going on?
Yes.
All right, well, what I said to the man who was the murderer is exactly the same things to apply to you. So you remember all of that? You remember that?
I must talk to God about my being sorry.
That's right, spot on. And remember that everything covers over different emotions, and right down the bottom is the emotion of grief, right? So you have a lot of grief associated with your dad. Remember, your dad never really loved you, did he? You never felt love from your dad. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yep. And actually it was your unwillingness to feel the grief about your desire for daddy's love that caused you to be jealous of your own daughters. Because any woman became competition for you, didn't they, for a man's love?
Yes.
You know that? So when you allow yourself to experience this grief that you have of the loss of Daddy's love and the fact that you weren't loved by Dad, that will help you a lot to actually deal with a lot of the causal emotion that's inside of you that's causing you to remain dark. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, would you like a helper to come along and help you through this?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Well, let's ask one of our spirit friends to do that. You see the lady who's appeared now?
She's here.
Yep. And what's her name?
Jordan.
Yeah. And how long ago did she pass? You should tell me that.
$200 years.
Yeah. And you see how she's had a very similar life to you, where she was very jealous?
Yes.
Yeah. And very similar things she did to her children as a result of her jealousy.
She killed one.
Yeah. Murdered one. Yeah. Can you see that she's bright now, though?
Yes.
So somehow she's got through all of this and worked her way through it all. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what she's going to do is explain to you what she had to work through, because what she had to work through is very, very similar to what you have to work through. But can I just point out one thing before you go and talk with her? And that is, you are going to need to experience this grief that you've always tried to avoid. This grief that a man doesn't love you. Does that make sense? And instead of getting angry about it and resentful and hateful about it, you're going to need to just cry about it. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Because if you don't do that, what will happen is you'll keep getting into your anger all the time. So this anger is like a capping emotion. And the anger is what caused you to do these harmful things. Didn't it?
Yes.
You got so angry and so much in a rage that eventually you hurt your own children as a result of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So what we want to do is get to the cause of that, which is the grief that you didn't want to feel. Because Daddy hurt you quite a lot, right? Yeah.
Every day.
Every day, yeah. Yeah. And that happened all your life, didn't it?
Yes.
Till you married. Yeah? Till you're with this other man. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of grief there to feel about that. Does that make sense? And this lady who's come to visit you, Jordan, she will be able to help you through that because she's been through that.
Thank you.
That's my pleasure. You'll be able to do that. Thanks, Natalie. Some good triggers there for you, isn't there?